Okay, Black Hole. So I think this was the second song that I wrote sort of at the beginning of this whole project. Yeah, this was the second song that I wrote that I actually felt like had some sort of potential in terms of one, I guess just the actual like songwriting, like the song at its bones, but also starting to find kind of identity, like a color of aesthetic that I was feeling like would represent me. So in September 2022, I have a voice memo where I was starting to like sketch slash chip away at writing this song on this silver tone guitar. I think it's like a 1448 or something with like the wood bridge, and kind of had it deadened. Like I had a piece of foam and started kind of playing around with that. So I thought I'd show that first. This is just again, a voice note that I found. You can kind of hear me starting to like feel out what it might be. And at this time, the song like vibe in terms of the style was like totally different. So here's that voice memo.
I could make it up to you, somehow stick around. Be the one that always holds you down, like a flower in a garden, holding on to something while the world keeps spinning around.
So with that, I was like, okay, I finished writing the song, like just got a voice memo of it, and was like, okay, I'm ready to start tracking it. Which at the time, this was like the very beginning of this project, and I was kind of still in a mentality of like, oh, I just need to do everything myself in my own studio. You know, one, I don't have a budget to pay other people. Two, I kind of can play the different instruments that I need, so maybe I'll just do it myself. And I started tracking what I thought was going to be a final version, and was really happy with like the capture and the actual recordings in terms of the fidelity and the quality. But I just felt at some point like maybe it wasn't the right vibe. So this is kind of what the song started as, like with an actual, recording.
I could speak the words to you, but I don't think you'd get.
So that's like, the intro into V1, and then let's get to a chorus.
Like a flower in a garden that's holding on to something while the world keeps spinning around.
So yeah, that was kind of the vibe at the time, and I'm not even sure like what that is in terms of style. It's definitely more indie leaning, I guess, than where the song ended up, at least in my point of view. But it's obviously much more driven by a more like band centered context where it's like guitar and, like real drums and that kind of thing. But also the mood of the song was just a lot more tame. Like it didn't have the sort of sense of mystery, or I don't know, something extra that I feel like I eventually found. So what happened was that was like September of 2022. I mean, you can see this this bounce is labeled 9/27/22. And I was just like, I love this song, but I don't know what to do with it, like vibe-wise, to get it to sit in a place that I really like and feel compelled. So I talked to my friend Jason Bennett about it, and he was like, yo, I'll just come over one day, maybe bring a couple things, and we can just like screw around, see if there's something cool that we can pull out of it, because he like saw the potential in the song, but also understood what I was getting at. So he came over one day, brought some toys over. Like I think he brought his Echoplex delay unit and like a Digitac drum machine. And I think the first thing we started doing was trying like a tape loop kind of thing. But basically we were running like my Mellotron through his Echoplex and just kind of getting random noises to like start to generate a new world, ideally sonically, aesthetically, for the song. And it was feeling cool, but it wasn't giving enough context to like, obviously it's not a core piece of the song. So it's like, it's cool, but it's not going to give us the main piece that we need to like head in a new direction. He eventually got on like over on my piano at the time. I muted everything but the click and my vocals, which was just like a demo vocal at the time, which sounded terrible. I have like no video proof of any of this process except I think this moment, which I'm glad, because this was like completely the turning moment for the song in terms of identity. And so I have a voice note as well as like a video that I'd love to show a piece of. I'll play that and you can kind of hear him like starting to mess around with it. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I can speak the words to you, but I don't think you get it. No, I can spill it all to you, but I don't know you don't understand.
So once he started hitting that vibe, I was like, yo, that is 100% like what this needed, and so much more in line with like a style lane that I want to start, finding for myself. Eventually, once we landed on some stuff, I took a quick video of him actually tracking some of the main piano, which again is like the only video evidence I have of this whole process, which is crazy because at the time I just wasn't thinking to do that. I was just so concerned with like, how can I get this song out of me and into the world? So let me play a quick piece of that. So basically that led me now on a stylistic path for the song that felt really compelling. And I mean, even when he first started laying down that piano stuff, it was like the first time I had written something that I was feeling emotional about, honestly. It felt almost like I was listening to somebody else's song, which felt really good for the first time. So I think that was honestly a big turning point for me, believing in myself, believing in importance of collaborating with others, etc., which really set kind of, again, the path for me to develop this project more and more, not even with just this song, but with other songs as well. Okay, so from there, I actually was like, all right, I've got what I need. That day we tracked the piano. And obviously he's playing like super quiet. I think I had the felt on the piano. And we landed on that sort of like movement that he discovered. It's got like a light mood in terms of it's a gentle piano, but it's kind of giving you the idea that we're leading somewhere, and I think has a sense of like urgency to it. But it's funny because I think once he did that first take, we did a couple more, and then we both listened back to the first one. It was like, there's something there, let's just leave it at that. And there's even moments where it's like pretty loose timing wise, but it really helped the song just feel human in the right way. So again, that was such a big part of finding the identity for the song. As far as other stuff that we got down that day, there's the tape loop stuff. So yeah, it's just this kind of cool like ambient bed of textures. And then the other crucial piece that got put down that day with Jason is he had brought in that Digitac, which is like a drum machine. He started playing around with like some different loops, and a couple of them ended up sticking in the song. So let me find those. The first one is this lo-fi loop, which comes in right at the top of the song. What's so cool about that is it's such like a small, like gritty sound, but it totally sets like the pace because this is like a slower ballady type song. It's easy for it to feel just like a little bit draggy at some point. So that just immediately like has like some sort of pace. It creates a sense of like urgency there. And then there's this other loop. And what's cool about these is I think they're both so like almost like industrial sounding, but yet so many elements in the song are very like soft and human, kind of like hug feeling, that it creates this nice contrast to where it helps take the song out of like traditional piano ballad territory. And then let's go ahead and maybe hear the main elements that got laid down on that first day with Jason. Let's just play from maybe like chorus 2. And once I play that, you can hear like how much of the identity of the song that is. Like you could put the vocal on top of that and that feels like the song. So it's crazy how just those few elements really again brought the identity forward. Okay, so from there I actually started again on the path a little bit on my own again and started to find some cool elements that ended up playing like major roles in the song. I think the first thing I did was maybe started adding more keys stuff because I knew as soon as we got that piano down that I was loving that the song was no longer driven by the guitar. So I knew there's a chance that guitar would come back into play at some point, but I really wanted to sort of build the like keys synth atmosphere world and then find what kind of other core pieces would fit around it. And I don't remember exactly where this came from. I want to say it was either from an Arturia like software thing or it might have been like a Labs like Spitfire thing. I'm not positive, but it's just cool. Like I don't even know what it sounds like. It's a pad, but it's not like ambient. It's got this cool realness to it. I'll play a little bit of that. So it's like super simple, but something about it again just has like the right emotion. It's similar to the piano in that I feel like I could just listen to that in the vocal and be happy. So I had that and I added like this higher version of it. So again, it's simple, but it's just like an octave up version of it with like some delay ping pongy stuff going on. It's like once you get those together with the tape loop and the piano, you start to hear again kind of the identity of the keys. During that part of the song too, this is where I started to find just some like abstract other textures that aren't main players, but like they're just adding to the bed. There's some like oscillating tracks that I don't remember for sure, but I think I probably like was messing around with some guitar stuff and used the Strymon El Capistan delay. It has like a mode where you can just hold down the tap tempo button and it'll cycle on itself. So I think I did two different layers of that, which are on top of each other. So yeah, they're just kind of again adding a sense of urgency, like helping transitions. There's an organ here, pretty simple, I think. Let's go ahead and hear all the keys together. I think from there I started playing around with guitars because I was like, okay, this probably still could have guitar. It just needs to play a more like textural role. And then I also wanted to grab that Silvertone guitar again and see if I could incorporate it somehow, because it was a major player in the first version of the song, but I knew I wanted to try to incorporate it in a different way. So I ended up with this sort of tone. Okay, so by this point, I knew I needed this like turnaround spot, which is the little section between chorus 1 and verse 2, to have some sort of hook, because there wasn't going to be a vocal there. So I was like, I need something to come in and kind of be hooky or memorable and just drive us into V2. So I started going back to the piano myself, and just kind of playing around with like simple like high single note lines, and ended up finding this like, it's like this do 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 thing, which it looks like I tracked 2 octaves of it just like separately and stacked them. I totally forgot those bruise are there, because I've heard this song so many times that I forget all those little things that would jump out probably to somebody listening for the first time. I've just heard them so many times. So I kind of forgot that like sweep was there. I don't even know why I did it. I probably just like got done playing the part, and just like sometimes when you're recording something, you know, you'll just do something like stupid at the end just because you know it's past the point of what you need. And then sometimes you're like, oh, maybe I'll keep it. So I think that's what happened on that part. So you get this sort of thing in the turn as far as just the melodic elements. So that helped a lot for me, like having kind of a new identity, like a new hooky thing. From there, I think I started playing around with like more core element drum stuff, because I had those loops that I showed you that got put down when Jason was over. For a long time, I didn't know like what the drums needed to be. I didn't want it to sound too programmy, but I also didn't want it to feel like super real. Kind of wanted it to just have like a interesting balance. So I think the first thing is I pulled this kick sample from, I believe, a John Joseph sample pack, but I could be wrong. I think it was from John Joseph. That's a very like hard hitting kick, which kind of contrasts the softness and roundness of everything else. I mean, it's still a warm sound. It's not like super clicky or anything. Let's see. I started grabbing snare samples, which for these, I think I actually used my own. I had made some sample packs a couple years ago, and I recorded like this little kid drum set that you'd get at like, I don't know, Toys R Us or Walmart or something. It has like plastic heads on it. I still have it in the closet. It didn't belong to me as a kid. It's just something that I got at some point just for fun, just to try. And I recorded like a sample pack with it. So I believe this is a snare from that. Okay, I'm remembering now too, because it doesn't sound like that snare does naturally. What happened was that's a sample from that sample pack, but I pitched it down an octave, so it has this more like knocky thing. And then I added some like delay as well, some effects to the snare in certain parts. So it's like once you get all the effects and everything, it's like the main kick and snare sounds like this. Okay, so now I actually had like a hard hitting, you know, core drum thing going. So let's hear it with all the like the ambient keys world stuff, as well as the guitars, maybe in like the second pre/chorusy area. Okay, so I don't remember at what point in the process this happened, but I think I just kind of figured out the bass world on my own. I knew it didn't need to be anything too crazy. It just needed to act as like a frequency supplement, really, because obviously when you hear it without bass, it's like feels like something major is missing, which it is. But I just knew I didn't want the bass to be like moving around a lot. I didn't know at the time whether I wanted like a bass guitar or a synth bass. It ended up kind of being a hybrid of both. The main bass through most of the song is a bass guitar, and there's some points where it's playing like little like small chords, like 2 or 3 notes at once rather than just a single string. And then the pre's actually ended up being like an 808 kind of like kick slash bass thing, like your kind of hard hitting 808 thing, which again contrast like this soft intimate piano. You get this kind of hard hitting thing. So really what I'm saying by repeating that is like the rhythm section of the song is like a harder hitting modern kind of thing, and then the melodic sense of the song is a lot softer and like more traditional feeling. So let's hear a little bit of the bass stuff. Let's maybe hear the 808 of pre 2 into the real bass of chorus 2. Okay, let's maybe hear the bass with the drums and then the main piano. Okay, so by this point, I had most of the core elements of the song there, but I kind of got stuck again, like I did in the very beginning when I had the other version and didn't know what to do with it. And I had the core identity of it there that I liked, but I was like, it just doesn't feel complete. Like it needs something to push it along. There's a possible rearranging of some sections. I just don't know exactly what needs to happen. And so my friend Chris Koo actually came over very similarly to what Jason did, and he was just like, "Hey, this is a rad song. Like, I have some ideas. Let's just get together and see if we can, kind of crack the code on it." So he came over one day, and I don't know exactly how much longer after the initial kind of spark of the song happened that he came over. I think it was like a couple months later, honestly. I'd kind of let it sit and was frustrated because, again, I was stuck on it. And so again, like the power of asking somebody else to come in and collaborate kind of like pulled me out of where I was stuck on it. So the first thing I think that he and I started messing around with was he was like, I'm really hearing this like brush thing, almost like a traditional like jazz, like wire brush kind of thing, trucking along with the song just to create more texture and movement. So I wish I had a video of this, but I literally set up I didn't have a kit set up at the time, so I just put the snare on a throne, and like I literally set the drum on top of the throne so the wires weren't even like engaged, which is usually a big part of a brush sound. But I just mic'd it really closely and just did 2 passes of like, rustling brush stuff, and then just panned them, I think, hard left and right. So yeah, it's just kind of rustling sound. It's kind of like an ear candy thing. But what's crazy is they're literally through the entire song, and they just get automated up and down, which they may not sound like a lot, but when you take them in and out, it makes a big difference. So like if I let's just play it with the drums and bass and piano, and I'll like take them in and out so you can kind of hear what they're doing. So that's the first thing he suggested that we do. And then he also was like, I feel like that da-da-da-da-da thing that happens in the turn, he was like, that's like my favorite part of the song, is that piano line. He was like, I really just want to hear that hook again. Like, it feels so good. I feel like it would fit over the chorus progression. So he suggested putting that piano line at the end, which sounded like this. What happened as a result of that too is I thought, okay, well, let's like double down on this whole hook thing and track a vocal, like an ad-libby sort of thing that goes along with that piece. So we made that change, which was huge, I think, to add that hook again at the end, because it was only happening at one point in the song at that time, and it was just like such a nice piece to, you know, to get it again at the end. So I love that he suggested that. And then the other thing that he suggested was, again, it had this kind of non-conclusion feeling in the outro. And so he was like, I have this piano chord idea that kind of is similar to the hook, but it puts it more into like a chordal space that you could end on and just pull everything else out and just made it go to this really soft, pretty piano piece. And you might have heard when I was playing that back that there's like some non-music, like non-instrument sounds. I recorded this on my front porch of an old house I lived in. Yeah, our neighbors had a rooster in their backyard, so you could hear that in the background. And then there's also, while I'm down here, there's this funny sound that came into play early on at some point in the process where I was wanting like this random, either yelly or like whistly sound. And so I think I actually recorded, I wish I had the original recording, but this has been like a committed track. But I think I recorded like a yell, but then when I pitched it up and added some effects, it made it sound like a whistle, like a really loud whistle, which happens right before chorus 1.
One last time.
I honestly don't even know why it's there. It's just like a random piece that just adds interest, I guess. I don't even know where the idea came from. That gets us through a majority of all the instrumental stuff. And then by this point, I was like, okay, I've got everything I need. I just need to get a vocal take or two that I feel strong about. And so I tracked the lead vocal, but also some doubles and, you know, set up some like aux tracks and everything. But in general, I think the main thing is just that it's a lead vocal with like some different delay and reverb stuff, but then, and also a key piece is like there's this high formant pitch shifted layer in there that's tucked in as well. So let me just play a little bit of the lead vocal.
I could make it up to you and somehow stick around and be the one to always hold you down, like a flower in a garden that's holding on to something while the world keeps spinning around.
I couldn't figure out at first what I wanted to do as far as like any background vocals, because I knew, and this was again kind of earlier in the process, but I knew I wanted a larger background vocal presence in my songs than stuff I'd ever done in the past. But I also wasn't hearing like traditional harmonies on this. So I ended up just doing a bunch of like stacks, kind of ooh and ah stacks. It's like if you took like a barbershop quartet and put it in a more modern context. Let's hear a little bit of just the vocals together, maybe chorus 2 of those background stacks along with the lead vocal.
I could make it up to you and somehow stick around and be the one to to always hold you down, like a flower in a garden that's holding on to something. Well,
Let's add in the piano too.
around. And I would make it up to you and find my way back home, and be the soul you never feel alone, like an astronaut in outer space, while everything just floats away, sinking down into a big black hole.
So by that point, I feel like the song was essentially done, and I was like, I could keep adding to it, but I think it's done. I don't need to add any more elements. There's a lot of layers there, but it's overall pretty simple. There's not like a lot of parts grabbing your attention at all times. It's more just about creating the bed for the vocal to sit on top of and keep that, you know, the most important factor. I went ahead and like mixed it, which was a whole process of just getting it to feel right. And then I started, by that point I had some other songs in the mix and started kind of lightly showing some friends here or there. I was showing my friend Ryan this one and a couple others, and he was like, wow, this one is really compelling. He was like, I just feel like I can see people reacting to this. I don't remember the way he described it, but just with a very like emotional way. And he was like, I feel like you should totally lead this project with this song, which at the time I was, even though I'd finished it, I was so like hesitant about everything, and I just needed that piece of validation to kind of give me the confidence to go, okay, this is going to be the first single, I'm going to lead with this song. And it kind of gave it a sense of importance that I needed to know at that time. That actually gave me the confidence to like fully finish it, which then I sent the final mix to Brian Lucy at Magic Garden Mastering to put a master on it, and finally called it done. I think that's everything for this one. That's Black Hole. Thanks for listening.